This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. That was a tough. Hey, what's up, and welcome to the post-game edition of Q&A, the show where I take your questions about the game and answer them here in video format. Now that we've had a day to kind of sleep on the game, feel how we feel, have our Monday morning thoughts, let's jump into it. Oliver Kane with the first question says, how do you rate Pierre Strong's performance in the three running back rotation? I think we managed to have a good role for all three backs. Yeah, I think they found the niche for each running back, right? When you have a three running back rotation, it's not necessarily first in line, second in line, third in line. It's more about situations. And we know that Kareem Hunt probably should be in first in short yardage situations. Pierre Strong and Jerome Ford should rotate those opportunities when you want to hit a bigger chunk play in the run game. And I think that rotation works out pretty strong as well, no pun intended. But yeah, I thought Pierre Strong played well. I thought that even Jerome Ford played well. I thought that Kareem Hunt played well. I thought that all three running backs in that rotation did a good job taking advantage of what the offensive line was giving them. And you have to give the offensive line credit because I think the offensive line was killing it all day. But yeah, specifically Pierre Strong, the book on him coming out of South Dakota State and coming out of New England is he will frustrate you because he's a big back that does not have great contact balance. And what that means is that he gets taken down easily. He's usually going to get knocked down the first bit of contact. He's not going to get a ton of yards after contact. And you saw that a little bit with Pierre Strong, where he would jump in, get stuck on the offensive lineman's back and not be able to lose that offensive lineman to be able to find some more yardage. Like, he will have runs like that. And he will be frustrating at times because of that, the same way that Jerome Ford was frustrating earlier in the season when he would do the same thing. So, yeah, I think that all three of these running backs have a good role. And it was really nice to see the running back room be able to create consistent runs in this game. I missed that. We haven't had that since Chubb was in there. We've had some good running games, but that's because somebody broke like a 70-yarder or something like that. And we didn't have something like that where it was consistent. Alexander with the next question says, why did Kevin pass it instead of run for 3 yards on that last third down? Even if you don't get it, the clock stops anyway. Just run it again. Keep possession too cute. Well, you got to remember the situation wasn't second down. Like, it was third down, right? So if you run it on third down, you don't get it. The clock does stop for the 2-minute warning, and then it's 4th down and 2 on your own 30. You're not running it again after that. Like, you punt the ball. So, you know, and running it for 3 yards on third down like that at that point in the game, when you've been running it all game, that's going to be a tough ask. And it's not 100% guaranteed that you do it. And let's remember that the interception gave the ball at the Seahawks 40. If you punt it, you're likely giving them the ball at the 20. Right, so we're talking about 20 yards, the difference of field position. I don't think that makes a difference, seeing how easily the defense let the Seahawks walk down the field there in the fourth quarter. So, yeah, I think people will argue about should he have passed or ran on third down. You know, I've seen him run in those situations, and people were critical of that, saying that he was playing scared to win, that you have to try to win the game. Maybe that would have been different since PJ Walker's out there at quarterback. Maybe people would have understood. I don't know. It's going to be one of those damned if you do, damned if you didn't. We'll never really know the answer to that. But I don't think that there was one clear answer like a lot of people are suggesting. I think throwing the ball on third down is just as valid as a play call as running it in that situation. It just didn't go your way. and running the ball in that situation could have also not went your way as well. It wasn't a guarantee that you were going to convert there. So tough spot. Would love for the offense to convert on third down. Would love for the defense to stop the bleeding there and force a stop or at least a field goal to get to overtime. But none of those things happened. The Browns lost that game. Now they have to move on and try to win this game versus the Arizona Cardinals. But there's blame everywhere that you can look at for this game. That's how losses work in the NFL. So, there's no shortage of points where you could point at and say, hey, this is where Kevin went wrong or this is when Jim Schwartz went wrong. It's all about how much you want to put everything under a microscope. Oliver says, how do you think the game plays out if we catch the pick six in the second half and extend the game 27-17? The whole running on third down wouldn't even exist. Yeah, I mean, if you go up 27-17, it's fair to say that's probably an insurmountable lead for the Seahawks at the time. And you're in a great position, but also like maybe the Seahawks could score. Like anything could have happened at any point. This is how it lined out for the Cleveland Browns this week. But yeah, man, like the interception would have been huge there. But, I'm not going to be upset at Cam Mitchell for only making a play to get the team off the field on third down, because they did make the play to get to force the punt to get the team off the field on third down. And the offense didn't execute. We just, like, at the end of the day, I really do think that this boils down to the team just not playing complementary football in the fourth quarter. And I think people are so so focused on isolating the problem, either offense or a specific person on offense, or it's Kevin Stefanski, that the whole picture is getting lost. And I think the biggest thing that went wrong with that game was that they weren't playing complementary football in the fourth quarter. For the second quarter and the third quarter, they were getting stops, scoring on offense. That's how you came back from that deficit. But in the fourth quarter, we stopped playing complementary football, right? Cam Mitchell doesn't get that interception, but still forces a punt. The Browns offense doesn't do anything with that punt, has to punt it back. Browns defense gets another stop. Browns offense gets a field goal to take the lead. Browns offense gets the ball back. They don't get the third down on 3rd and 3. They have to punt the ball back. Well, they gave up the ball with 2 minutes and left to go in the game because of an interception that PJ Walker threw off the helmet of Jamal Adams. The defense now put in a little bit of a tougher situation, but still a manageable situation with the ball at the 40. Hey, you stop them here, you win the game, you get them to a field goal, you still tie the game with the opportunity to win in overtime. Instead, we didn't play complementary football, gave up a touchdown with 40 seconds left to go, and you lose. You got to play complementary football. And the defense and offense didn't complement each other at all in the fourth quarter. When the offense needed help, defense wasn't there to show up. When the defense needed help, offense wasn't there to show up. You lost the game. That's really my analysis of it. I think it was just a lack of complementary football at the end of the game. And in those situations, not one individual is to blame. Dylan says, what do you think the biggest key games the rest of the year are for the Browns? Obviously, with only 3 losses, you can drop a few, but would be curious to see what you think are must wins as of now. Given like the current situation, right? The Baltimore Ravens playing really good football. You have to play Baltimore in Baltimore, and you're probably not going to have Deshaun Watson. So if that's the case, you have to count that as a loss until it's a win. Not saying that you're automatically going to lose that game, but if we're playing the scheduling game, it is fairer than not to say, okay, you're not going to win that Baltimore game, because that's way too tough of an ask. If you do, amazing, great. I'm still going to think that they're going to put their team in the chance to win in the fourth quarter, but can't assume that they're going to do that. What you can do is say, hey, you got to win the Arizona game, and you got to find a way to win that Steelers game if you're not going to beat the Baltimore Ravens. If you beat the Baltimore Ravens, things change a little bit, but if you don't think you can beat the Baltimore Ravens, that's okay. You beat Arizona and you beat Pittsburgh, and then you see where you are after that, right? So for these next 3 weeks, I think that's how it should line up for the Cleveland Browns. You want to win next week because you don't want to have to put yourself in a position to count on winning a road game with the backup quarterback in division against the division the division leader right now in Baltimore, who's playing really good football. That's a really, really tough situation to put yourself in if you're the Cleveland Browns. So you win this game against Arizona. You can drop that game against the Ravens as long as you pick up that game against Pittsburgh. So that's how these next 3 weeks line up. If you would have won this game in Seattle, you would have had a lot more flexibility going forward, right? Because then you could potentially win the game against Arizona, have 6 wins, and then less pressure is on those 2 games. You'll see where Watson is probably around that Broncos game. That's where I'm anticipating we're going to get another update on this whole Deshaun Watson thing. Maybe we get an update this week. I doubt it. I think we're just going to get an update probably in that week of the Denver game. And that's when we're going to get, the noise of him potentially playing again, if not, or whatever it's going to be. But yeah, back to the main point. I would say I can't tell you what the must wins are going to be like 8 weeks from now because it's just too much has to happen from 8 weeks from now. But I can tell you what the must wins are going to be for the next 3 weeks. Got to win in Arizona. Well, got to win at home versus Arizona. You're probably going to lose against Baltimore. You can live with that as long as you beat Pittsburgh, right? In Cleveland, which is doable. Pittsburgh might not even have their starter. So those 2 games, you got to find a way to get them, especially if you don't think you can get the Baltimore one. Now, if you get the Baltimore one, then that's great, but you still should try to pick up as many winnable games as possible. But if you get the Baltimore one that makes up for losing the Seattle one, that's actually way better than picking up the Seattle one. So if you get that Baltimore one, which again would be very tough, then you're in a great spot. If you win 2 out of the 3, you're in a very good spot. If you do anything less than that, you're in a tough spot. Right. And then it starts mattering that Watson's not out there. And then you don't have the time to let this thing play out. And then we kind of end up in a situation where you might have to force him out. But winning that game close against Indy and winning that game close against the 49ers makes a huge difference, gives you more flexibility as of right now. And if you can give yourself more flexibility by beating Arizona and beating Pittsburgh, you'll be in a similar position to just wait it out with Watson. CTG says, Q, I know I will be one of the few that took any positives away from this game, but I feel like the screen and misdirection game was successful. The 3-headed monster running back room was in full effect against a stout front, and Nick Harris's fullback looked fun. What say you? Yeah, I'm really encouraged by what I saw out the running game this week, and I think going forward, I have more hope for the offense and their ability to create sustainable football offensively with DTR or PJ Walker, whoever it's going to be for the remainder of the Watson injury. And then once Watson gets back out there, I think the lack of a run game has been something that has been really concerning ever since Nick Chubb has come out, because it's the safety blanket for your quarterbacks. And if we can really develop a good 3-headed monster back there and have run games like that and have that kind of success going forward, this team's going to still be in a spot to where I feel like they could produce offensively. So yeah, I would say that's a huge positive takeaway. And honestly, if you're wondering how can the offense create a more sustainable output for the rest of the year, that was a huge step that they needed to take. Those screens and those runs working, that was a massive step that they needed to take, right? Because they were only going to get so much with the backup quarterback running a ton of empty, but that was really the only option we had for a couple of weeks because we did not have a sustainable run game. Now you have a sustainable run game. Now you have a better chance of creating more sustainable offense going forward. And that will be beneficial. Let's say Watson can get back. If he does, then that would be beneficial for him, but it'll be beneficial for anybody who's out there at this point, because you just need something to rely on offense. And we can only go but so far, like targeting Coop 45 times in a game. Casey Hagan says, why is PJ Walker still on our team? See, I just think the criticism for PJ Walker is just overblown. Like, people are throwing levels of vitriol towards him that I just don't think are fair to throw at a backup quarterback who's done a good job of being 2-1. And honestly, I don't think it's uniform how we're critical of PJ Walker right now versus how we've been critical of other bad backup quarterbacks in Cleveland Browns history. I've seen people be way nicer to Case Keenum despite him playing worse football. Like, for whatever reason, people feel like it's cool to just completely dump on PJ. And I know PJ's not playing the greatest in the world, but he has gotten to 2-1. And that's what you want out of a backup, right? You don't really care how it happens. You just care that it happens. And he has been able to win 2 big games, and he's made some big throws in those games. I feel like we're just being harsh to PJ Walker for no reason. Like there's no reason to expect what people are expecting out of him. There's no reason to be this mean about it. Like, we were nice to Jacoby. Jacoby won 4 games, and Jacoby played just about as well as PJ Walker did, right? Jacoby turned the ball over too. Jacoby did these things. Jacoby had turnovers late in games as well. But we were appreciative that he was able to get more than you expected out that position. Now, I don't think PJ's been playing as well, as consistently as Jacoby has, but there have been moments where he's made throws that Jacoby couldn't. So I just feel like we're being a little bit mean to PJ Walker for no reason here. Like, he's a backup. He was on the road in Seattle, and he still gave you a chance to win. Isn't that what you want from your backup quarterback? Like, that's what you could say about PJ Walker. So, like, as much as I like DTR, and I think DTR is a good piece for the future, didn't give you a chance to win against Baltimore. The one thing you want from a backup quarterback, give me a chance to win. You'll take it if you can get a chance to win with a backup quarterback. And in every game that PJ Walker's played in, you've had a chance to win. Like, we're overthinking it. He's been pretty decent for a backup quarterback. Like, if a backup quarterback steps in and gives you a chance to win week after week after week, that's what you want. That's what you want. Let alone win 2 out of the 3 games he's been in. It's what you want. I don't get the resentment towards PJ. I think it's really unfair. And if in different scenarios, we were not this mean to the backup quarterback. Like, I don't get it. I don't get it. Let that man live. Like, he's giving you a chance to win every week. This is not something you can say about every backup. Sean Valentine says, why are people attacking Kevin when the best play calling performance he's had all season, even in his entire tenure? Blame the turnovers, not the calls. The turnovers are tough. I don't know. It seems like with Kevin, some people just don't want him to be the coach anymore. And whenever there's an opportunity to make that argument, people are going to make that argument towards Kevin, because I've even seen people do this to Kevin after a win, like last week. So, it's tough, but, I think Kevin did a good job as far as getting that offense together, play calling as well. I think that kept the team in the game late in the first quarter. Late in the first quarter when it looked like it was about to be a blowout. So shout out to Kevin, man. But it was a tough loss. I think people want to blame it on something. Nobody wanted to blame it on the defense, so it ended up being on the offense, right? But that's it for the questions. I am shocked that we got no defensive questions. That is shocking to me. Like, we're just going to let the defense slide? It's interesting, right? 17 points in the first quarter. Not good at all. And then that last drive, they got the ball at their own 40. Seattle got the ball at their own 40. I understand it was off a turnover, but still, you got a chance to have 1 or 3 outcomes happen at the end of the game. You can stop them, force a punt, and put your team in a position to win the game, or not even force a punt, just stop them on 4 downs and end the game right there if you're the Cleveland Browns defense. You didn't do that. You had the other opportunity to hold them to a field goal and play overtime. You didn't even do that. You gave up a touchdown at the end of that game with relatively no resistance due to bad play calling on the defensive side and just horrible execution in the back end of the secondary. And like, nobody wants to discuss that. It's all about Kevin Stefanski third down this, third down that. And it's like, I understand if you have frustrations about the third and short play calling, because that has been a problem area for this team, but other things went wrong too. And it's not fair to just focus it all on one person. Again, it was a failure of playing complementary football in the fourth quarter. When the offense needed the defense didn't show up. When the defense needed the offense didn't show up. But at the end of the day, the heavier burden is on the defense, because the offense we expect to be mediocre, because they're running PJ Walker out there. There's no Nick Chubb. Like, you expect a mediocre result from the offense. You don't expect mediocre results from the defense. And in that fourth quarter, you got mediocre results from the defense, especially on that last drive. That last drive did not look like an elite defense. That looked like a mediocre defense. And I just think it's wild that not more people are talking about that, given that that kind of thing happened last week against Indianapolis. You don't tackle Michael Pittman, let him walk into the end zone and put your team down 4, just putting your offense in a horrible position in that game. And you do the same thing against San Francisco, except for Jake Moody misses the kick. Like, whatever's happening on these last drives with Jim Schwartz and these play calls, that needs to be discussed as much as the play calling on 3rd and 3. And it's shocking to me that that's happened for 3 weeks in a row and nobody is discussing it. It's all on Kevin. It's all on that 3rd and 3 play call. It's all on what you did on offense. We thought this defense was Super Bowl caliber. We thought this defense was good enough to carry the offense. That's the more important piece to this team, and they did not show up in the most important moment for this team for the 3rd week in a row. And nobody finds that discussion worthy. It's all about the play calling. It's all about 3rd and 3, and it's going to be that all week. I want to move on to the Arizona game. I want to talk about the Arizona game, and we're going to talk about what the defense can do to make sure that this shit does not happen again, and what the offense can do to make sure that they put a faucet on the turnovers. But we're going to talk about all sides of the ball. We're not just going to blame one thing, one person. It was a failure of complementary football for this team, and going forward, you got to make sure those kind of failures don't happen, because they've been getting away with them for the last 2 weeks. Now you ain't get away with it. We got to talk about it. But the defense is in that conversation as well. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night.